Good evening, Facebook. Welcome back to Eating the Elephant on Facebook Live, where we talk about Hurricane Michael recovery and insurance tips. And we're here every Wednesday and Sunday, and it's time to get started. We've got quite a bit to cover, and I've made a bunch of notes, so forgive me if I glance off camera every once in a while. The first thing I want to let everybody know is I want to remind people that do follow us on Facebook that our Lynn Haven page has been shut down. Some of you know we have a main office on 23rd Street in Panama City. We also have an office in Lynn Haven that's been very heavily damaged, and rather than focus on getting that up and running, what we've decided to do is bring everyone in-house to 23rd Street and focus on clients for a while, and then we'll get up and running when we are able to do so in Lynn Haven again. So we've shut down that web page. That way we don't have to post everything twice. We can kind of keep everything focused for everyone and make it a little easier to find us. But I didn't want anyone to think that just because the Lynn Haven page was shut down that somehow we had quit working. A couple of things. First of all, my daughter is extremely smart, much smarter than I am, and she's off at college, and she made a comment that has really stuck with me from 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that is that we're all kind of pulling on a rope together. The recovery process is very much like a tug of war, and we're sort of pulling against the power of the storm. And so we're pulling against 150 mile an hour winds, or based on gusts, 180 mile an hour winds. And if we're going to be successful in our recovery effort, then all of us need to be pulling on the same rope in the same direction. So if you get the impression that someone in your food chain, whether it's a contractor, your insurance agent, your insurance company, your adjuster, if someone is not pulling on the rope in the same direction that you are, then you need to do something about that. And you probably need to replace that player on your team. If you think about the way a tug of war works, everybody has to pull the same direction with the same effort the same way. And if someone is either not pulling in the direction that you would like, if they're not pulling at all, if they're not pulling their weight, they need to be replaced. If they're pulling in a different direction, God forbid, that's even worse, and they need to be replaced that much faster. So I would encourage you to think about this recovery process as a tug of war, and the people on your team need to be pulling the same direction, and you need to be the captain of that tug of war team, and you need to be dictating how people are pulling. And if they're not pulling your direction, or they're not pulling hard enough, then again, I think you need to replace them and see what else you can do to change your personnel roster. Beyond that, we're seeing some difficulty with people showing up on properties now. Now that things have begun to settle just a little bit, we're seeing people sort of trolling. And we're seeing people running through neighborhoods and stepping up to properties and claiming, in some cases, that they've either been sent by your insurance company, sent by your agent, they may be working with your agent, they may be working with your contractor, or simply offering random help. This is kind of a red flag, and what I would encourage you to do, particularly with referrals, if someone says, oh, this person has sent me, Wile E. Coyote has sent me from Acme Insurance Company, well, then you need to call Wile E. Coyote at Acme Insurance Company, and you need to verify that those people are who they say they are, and they have indeed been referred. Because what we're seeing people do is, particularly from people that are from out of town, that don't have their own credibility built in town, are borrowing the credibility of locals. Do not let that happen. It's certainly possible someone from out of town could have been working here at the instruction or at the referral of someone local. We certainly have heard people that we don't know very well, but we have vetted as best we can. But if you get a referral, it's very, very important that you verify that referral before you simply accept it as gospel. We've had a number of people wander through town and say that they were working with us, they were working with our insurance company, or they were working with a contractor that is very well respected in town. Some of those people, alarmingly enough, are showing up on site with policy information. We're still trying to run that down via the Department of Insurance, and we're not quite sure how that's happening yet. But we've had people show up on site with an insurance company name, a claim number, and the name of the agent and the person that owns the home. We just have no idea how that's happening yet. We have found out that if you call them on it, surely they turn on their heels pretty quickly and leave, because obviously something nefarious is going on, and we need to make sure that, again, if you check people, if let's assume just for a moment that it's an innocent enough mistake, someone that's made an innocent mistake is going to tend to sit tight and let you verify the issue. If someone turns and runs, that's a pretty good red flag. They're probably not where they're supposed to be, and they doggone well know it. So be very, very careful with referrals. Make sure you verify. Along that line, I want to talk about what we are now calling billing errors, because we've seen some pretty egregious examples of people billing very, very high numbers for things that I think would ordinarily, we've all seen that there's price inflation. We expect price inflation after a storm. The supply is very low for workers and for materials, and the demand obviously is very, very high. And frankly, basic economics would dictate that prices are going to rise. They're going to rise to a certain level, but when they rise exponentially, that's a little bit problematic. We had two examples of this that I'd like to mention to you. We had a bill from Nationwide Roofing Company to tarp a roof, about a 3,000 square foot roof, give or take, and the initial bill was $18,000. I think anyone would agree that that's a ridiculous amount. We did actually post that information on Facebook, and their attorney reached out to us and let us know that that was a billing error. So I want to be very clear that if Nationwide has sent you a bill for $18,000 to tarp your roof, it is very likely a billing error. What I would suggest you do is, if you have a bill from a roofer, you might want to verify it. I'm not saying that all roofers are bad. I'm not saying that Nationwide Roofing is bad necessarily. What I am saying is that errors occur. We had a second example from, I believe it was Lion Roofing, that we've not heard from and we've not reached out to be fair to them, for a similar sized home for an $11,000 tarp job. And it just seems to me that those numbers are excessive. Again, in the first case, it appears to have been an error. The second case, we'll investigate and find out if that was an error or not. But what I am trying to say is that just because a bill is being sent on your behalf to an insurance company doesn't mean you shouldn't check it out. Something you need to remember is that bills for any kind of repair work or emergency work that are paid are going to come out of your limits of insurance. So what you want to be very, very sure is that those bills are correct, because if they're not, that bill could come out of your limit of insurance and limit your ability to recover what is rightfully yours. I would like to give a shout out to the Department of Insurance in particular. I'm sorry, it is now the Department of Financial Services. Back in my day when I got my license, it was the Department of Insurance. But the Department of Financial Services for the state of Florida has done excellent work. And I will tell you, I'm somewhat of a libertarian, it's sort of in my political trade. And I always wonder about the efficacy of government agencies. But I must tell you that the Department of Financial Services has performed absolutely brilliantly after this storm. They have been aggressive, they have been thorough, they have been energetic, and every time that we have referred a client, or we really haven't had to refer clients, but referred people that have come to us for help, particularly at our help desk, when we have referred them to the Department of Insurance, they have done excellent work, and we have seen immediate and very substantial results from them. And so while I sometimes am a critic of government in general, I do have to give credit where credit is due. The Department of Insurance has been phenomenal in their response to this storm. I would like to note that they had people on the ground within days after the storm that came by our office asking questions, looking for fraudulent contractors and fraudulent public adjusters. They were very concerned about the way the public was being treated, and I have to say I've been very, very impressed with their response. Everyone in Jimmy Petronis' office that we have dealt with has been very, very impressive in both their work ethic, their thoroughness, and their energy. So I have to give a shout out. We had the pleasure of meeting with Tasha Carter, who was she was the chief, I'm going to get this wrong, but she was in charge of the Consumer Services Division of the Department of Financial Services. I'm sure that's not her exact title, but she gave very thorough, very helpful explanations to a number of clients the other night at Florida State University. And I have found that thoroughness and that expertise has carried through the rest of her staff. So again, a very big shout out to them. We want to offer an additional level of caution. We've had 3 reports this week of public adjusters that have shown up somewhat at random at people's homes, apparently because they were tarped. I think a blue tarp seems to be the signal that says, please come see me and please come try to take advantage of me. These 3 particular public adjusters, all different firms, went to the homeowner and suggested, well, actually didn't suggest, stated emphatically that they were working with either their agent or their insurance company or both. You need to be very, very careful if you hear that kind of language, because typically public adjusters don't work in concert with insurance companies. They're very emphatic that they like to work in opposition to insurance companies. Their typical marketing ploy is that an insurance company is out to get you and they're going to rip you off and not pay you properly. So they're going to go in and fight the insurance company, and then they're going to get you what is rightfully yours. Frankly, you can usually get what is rightfully yours on your own without a great deal of help. What it requires is some patience, and sometimes it requires some involvement from your agent. But regardless, what we have seen, and I'm not saying all public adjusters are bad, I'm saying that we've seen 3 specific instances where public adjusters have come to a homeowner and stated outright that they were working in concert with either the agent or the insurance company, and in each of those 3 instances that information was false. So again, going back to what I said earlier, please verify any sort of reference that you get. I'd like to mention a couple of assets that I have failed to mention the last couple of episodes of this broadcast. Tower Hill Insurance Company. Tower Hill has probably got as many claims as any other insurance company in town on homes, and they have assets on the ground that if you are a Tower Hill claimant, then you can take advantage of that. Their employees are going to be here on the ground, and there will be people with the power to make decisions and to move things through their system very quickly. They will be at our office at 3106 23rd Street. They will also have personnel at John Thompson's office at St. Andrews Insurance Agency on 15th Street. Those employees, we're told, are going to be here at least through Christmas. They may be here much longer than that. They're typically here 9 to 4. Their hours may change somewhat, and it might be a good idea to call either St. Andrews Insurance or HUD Insurance Agency and sort of ask what the current hours are. In our office in particular, there have occasionally been some long waits, particularly in afternoons. So again, you might want to make a call before you show up. A final reminder before we turn you loose tonight, I know we've gone a little bit long, you need to work your agent. One of the things that you need to do is the person you bought your insurance from, the person you signed the application with, the person you sat down across the desk from, and I hope you have a local agent, I hope you have local representation. You need to work your agent. You need to go to them if you are having any kind of problem. Hopefully you're not, but if you're having a problem with your claim, you need to go to your agent's office and sit across the desk from them, and you need to explain to them what your problem is and ask them how they can help you. It is very important that you explain to them that you need their help, and that frankly it's time to earn their money. It is much better, in my opinion, to go to your agent who you've been paying a commission to all the time that you've had insurance with them, rather than at this particular time when money is the most important and getting your claim resolved and getting the maximum claim payment that you can possibly experience. Why should you give that 10% up to someone, either an attorney or a public adjuster, when you've already been paying for that kind of service? Again, it's very important you go to your agent and tell them that you expect them to earn their money. Again, I hope everybody is beginning to have a better experience. I know that things have been a little rough the last couple of weeks, but I hope things are beginning to improve for you. And if they're not, call our help desk. We've given that number, and I'll post it again this evening. But I hope you're doing well. I hope your tarp is gone. I hope your roof is on and your house is dry. We'll be back with you on Sunday.